Welcome to another edition of the Quarantine Teacher here, Mr. Cornell, going over some exponential functions. The lesson that we're going to be looking at today is going to be heavily used on Regents questions, so we're going to go over some word problems here and then just some different ways that they can go about doing them. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so let's start with some notes for some exponential functions, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so the formula for exponential functions that you have to know is going to be a1 plus or minus the percent over 100 to the x power. Okay, now x is going to represent your time. Okay, percent is percent. This plus minus, we'll get to in a second, and A is going to be your initial, good afternoon, Wilfredo, welcome back, your initial value. So if you have the packet, remember, just go ahead and follow along with me, and if you don't, just write it on a separate piece of paper. Now this part here, that's kind of your most important area right here, okay? If you have a question that has 1 plus, okay, you know you're going to be dealing with a growth. Not too much. I'm just hanging out in quarantine, doing some elementary school work. This morning was reading, English, stuff like that. Some Spanish work. Math is in the afternoon. Okay, 1 minus, that's going to be your depreciation. Okay. Well, let's go back a second then. We're going to call that decay for now. Okay, so when you're reading a word problem, okay, because 90% of the time when you're using this, that is how it's going to go. Okay, 1 plus is going to be a growth, 1 minus is going to be a decay. So growth, sometimes they like, okay, interest. Okay, interest is something that's going to be, that would grow. They can use, for decay, they like to use depreciation. Okay, sometimes it would be depreciate. E-R-E-S-T. Interest is usually a popular one for growth. Depreciation, they like to use depreciate or depreciation to go down. So one is going up, and then the other is going down. Inside there, that's going to represent your percent, okay? Inside there, that's going to represent your percent. So popular ways that they like to do this is dealing with some type of asking you about an equation they're going to give you. So let's just say I'm going to make something up here. Let's just say I gave you 300, 1 plus 8 divided by 100 to the third power. Let's try to figure out, and I don't care about what the answer is, let's just figure out what everything means. So whatever the word problem is that they were talking about, we know that 300 was your initial value. That is where they were starting from. I know that this is an 8%, because that's the number over 100, and we know that that's going to be a growth. And then the 3 is going to represent your time. Okay? The 3 is going to represent your time. I mean, technically it is lunchtime, so it can't be that early. Although for you guys it probably is. Maybe we'll go a little bit later. So your 3 is your time. Now that could have been years, it could have been months, it could have been whatever it is. So that's kind of what it is. Now, how did I know it was a growth? Because there was a plus right there. If it said 1 minus 8, I would know that it was an 8% decay. So this is one way you can kind of look at it. How else could they give it to you? Same problem. 300, but what if they gave it to you like this? 1.08 to the 3. So what I'll tell you is these two problems are exactly the same. 8 divided by 100 is 0.08. 1 plus 0.08 is 1.08. So literally the exact same questions, except I solved what was inside. Okay, we solved what was inside. So here we go. I could give you 300 1.08. I could give you 300.92 to the x. All I care about is going to be what's inside. If I want to know, and here is a question, what is the percent growth or decay? So I'm not telling you if it's a growth, I'm not telling you if it's a decay, I'm not telling you the percent, I'm giving you the formula and asking you to find it for me. So every single time you're always going to do the same exact thing. We're going to ignore our initial value, we're going to ignore the time. We're going to take what's inside the parentheses, and that's going to be 1.08. And we're going to subtract it from 1. So 1 minus 1.08 is 0.08. We're going to times that always by 100, and that's going to give us 8. So I know that this is 8%. And I know it's a growth. So how did I know it's a growth? By this right here. Okay, if it's a number greater than 1, always a growth. Okay, if it's a number inside the parentheses greater than 1, you're a growth. Number greater than 1 is a growth. Now let's do this one. 1 minus 0.92. 1 minus 0.92. That's going to be 0.08. We're going to times that by 100. And we're going, ooh, wrote it wrong. I'm doing the answer in my head. Oh, no, I didn't. I did it right. 1 minus 0.92 is 0.08. We always multiply by 100. And that's going to be at 8%. But this question is going to be a decay. This question, okay, this one's going to be a decay. Now, how do I know it's a decay? Okay, the number inside the parentheses the number is less than 1. So again, that's how I know it's a decay, because we're looking inside the parentheses. Okay, that's fine. If you're in Miss Cacavali's class, look, we're all taking the regions in June, so I'm going to be getting us ready for the regions. So just, again, let your friends know, let everybody know that this is what we're here. Tell them to go on cimath.com, join my Remind. This way you'll kind of always know each day when I'm going to be giving out, when I'm going to be doing the lessons, and then they can subscribe to the channel. All right, so let me give you just some examples here to make sure that you kind of understand, because that basically goes over all of your notes. So if I gave you 8 times 1.30 to the x, b 10 times 0.60 to the x, and c 4 times 1.64 to the x. And I want to know, is it a growth or a decay? Is it a growth or a decay? And what is that percent of growth? And what is that percent or decay? So again, we take the number inside the parentheses and subtract it from 1. You'll get negatives, just ignore negatives. Okay, so 1 minus 1.30 is 0.30. Okay, and then we're going to multiply by 100, and then that's going to give us 30. So I know that the percent is 30. Now, is it a growth or a decay? To know if it's a growth or decay, go back and look over here. Is the number 1.3 greater or less than 1? If it's greater, we say it's a growth. Okay, good. Try this one. I want to know, what is the percent? And tell me if it's a growth or decay. Okay, as always, you're going to do 1 minus, then take what's inside your parentheses. That's going to be 1 minus 0.60 is 0.40. And then every time you're going to multiply it by 100. Good. Then that's going to be a 40%. Now, is this a growth or a decay? Is that number 0.60 greater than 1 or less than 1? Good. Less than 1, so we know we're a decay. And the last one here, 1 minus 1.64 is going to be 0.64. Multiply it by 100, that's 64%. Go back again in here. Is that greater or less than 1? And you know you're good. All right, so that's kind of that's all we need to know. Okay, that's all we need to know about how to use these formulas there. The only way they can trick you, okay, the only way they could trick you is, what if I gave you like 41 minus 0.80, right? What if I gave you this? We don't have to do the 1 minus part, okay? We don't have to really get too crazy with it because they didn't do that, so we don't have to do the 1 minus. So we're only looking at this. So I know that 0.80 times 100 is 80%. Now, is this a growth or a decay? So we would say decay. Yeah, so this, you don't want this to be super hard. You want to just kind of take it step by step. So if you're getting a little bit lost, just kind of stay with us and then go back and watch. Make sure you get these notes. But I can pretty much guarantee once I go through these questions here with you, which are regions, multiple choice, which you're 100% going to see, you'll understand it by the end, okay? So let's go through these problems again. Here we go. So it says a student invests $500 for 3 years in a savings account that earns 4% interest per year. No further deposits or withdrawals are made during this time. So they're just saying they're just putting the money in and leaving it there. Which statement does not yield the correct balance? Anytime you see percent, you know that you're going to be dealing with an exponential question. So we're going to start with our formula, A1 plus minus percent divided by 100 to the x power. A stands for our initial value. So what was my initial value? That was 500. Now, am I going to use a plus or a minus? Is this money growing or decaying? Thank you. Interest, we said was going to be a growth, so we're going to add that. What was our percent that we're going to be doing? 400. And then what was our time? 3. So there's our initial equation. 500, 1 plus 4 over 100 to the third power. So I'll look over here. I don't see anything yet. Now this is the part, don't try to just throw things in your calculator. Try to take it one step at a time. So then I'm just going to deal with this part here, 4 divided by 100. So I'll grab my calculator. Oh, stop it. 4 divided by 100, and that's going to give you 0.04. So I'm going to write 1 plus 0.04 to the third power. I'll come over here. Okay, see that. Then again, continue. Don't get crazy throwing the whole thing in your calculator. What's 1 plus 0.04? That's 1.04 to the third power. Well, here it is there. Now, why is that the wrong answer? Okay, why would that one be the wrong answer? This is where they try to trick you. Again, it's a Regents level question. They said does not give you the correct answer. So that, bam, you know he's out. Now, we said that the equation has to be plus because it's interest. In this choice, they had a minus. That's how I know the answer is going to be choice 2. Now, where did these other ones come from? Well, 1.04 written 3 times is 1.04 to the third power. And then this, what they did was they kind of, if you look at it from like a graph perspective, this is at 1, and then at 2, and then at 3, and then at 4. Okay, they're kind of growing it one at a time, and then multiplying it by your interest rate there. So the answer is going to be 2 because they're looking for the not correct answer. Since we know that we're adding, that's where we go. All right, so let's move to the second one. So if you're not watching this live, then I would pause it. Try those questions, and then play it and see how you did with it. But I'm just going to keep going. The current population of a town is 10,000. The population increases by 20% each year. Which equation can be used to find the population after t years? Well, again, percent means exponential. So I'm going to do A1 plus or minus the percent over 100 to the x power. My initial value was 10,000. I'm going to be adding because it said increase. The percent was 20. And then my time was unknown, or it said t years, so I'm going to write t here. And then again, take your time, don't rush through it. What's 20 divided by 100? That's 0.20. 1 plus 0.20 is 1.2. And then I can come over here. There it is, choice 3. Okay, number 3. Robert invests $800 in an account at 1.8% interest, compounded annually. So that's just saying that each year your interest will grow. And that was kind of similar to what we were looking at yesterday. He will make no deposits or withdrawals on this account for 3 years, which means he goes to the bank, he gives them the money, he says, I'll see you in 3 years. Because it's a percent, we know that we're going to be using exponential. So get used to writing the formula, write it, because you have to know it. So our initial value on our account was 800. We are going to be adding, because it's interest. The percent was 1.8 over 100. And then the time we said here was 3 years. Okay, now you take your time again, because this is the part where people just kind of try to look at the multiple choice that they gave you, and then you just kind of mess them all up. 0.018 to the 3, because 1.8 divided by 100 is 0.018. 800, 1.018 to the 3, because again you have to add. And then I can kind of look over here and see, okay, do I have any of those matching? Well, this is a minus, so you're definitely out. You're a minus. Okay, so this is the part when I said just make sure you use your calculator, because they're kind of begging you to circle choice 2. And the answer is going to be choice 4. Okay, now moving to number 4. Now this is kind of what we were looking at before. Here's the equation. So they gave me the equation already. 1,300, 1.02 to the 7th power is being used to calculate the amount of money in a savings account. All they want to know is, well, what does 1.02 mean? Well, if I look at it, they're talking about percent, and they're asking me growth or decay. 1.02, does that represent a growth or a decay? And we're going to say growth, because 1.02 is greater than 1. So see you later, number 1. See you later, number 3. So the answer can be growth of 0.02% or growth of 2%. So again, they're kind of begging you, please circle me, please circle. Okay, but remember, we have to do 1 minus 1.02. 1 minus 1.02 is 0.02. Times it by 100. There you go, 2%. There's your answer. So again, these questions here, they came from Regents exams. This is the way they like to ask them. So kind of get used to this. Go back, watch it again, try it on your own. Make sure that you can get these answers by yourself. Okay? So what I will ask you to do is I will ask you to kind of practice 5, 6, and 7 on your own. Very similar, exactly the same, but they're word problems and they're not multiple choice. So you're just going to be using your formula. And then you just kind of plug and play. So plug it in, see if you get the right answer, see if you can get all the numbers in, put it in your calculator, get an answer, and then tomorrow we'll go over those questions. So if you have any questions, let me know. Sign up for the remind so you know when they're coming in. Let your friends know in other classes that we're doing this each day. www.cimath.com is where you can go ahead and get all of the remind codes, and you could get all of these worksheets that we're working on. Hit the like, hit subscribe, and I will